All right, good evening, everybody. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I'm assuming yes. If you
Yes,
don't hear
I can
me
hear
and you
you.
just see my mouth talking, just raise your hand. All right, well, welcome everybody this evening to our virtual public meeting about the Malibu Speed Safety Program. With me here today are representatives from Kimley Horn, who is the company that we hired to assist us with putting together a use policy and impact report. We have Sri Chakravarthi, Matt Stewart, and Ramsey Goyle with us here tonight. Next slide, which I already did. All right, so we're going to start with just going with a speed safety program overview, then talk about the system location and the methodology for how we identified those locations, and then review the use policy, what it contains and what it's for, and then citations and revenues and how that will all work. And then go over the impact report, and then we'll talk about next steps. And at the end, we'll allow for questions and comments. Next slide. So during the meeting, we are recording it and we'll be posting it to the city website for future viewing. So please be respectful and refrain from use of any profanity. And please use the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your Zoom screen to type in your comments or questions, which we will address at the end of the presentation. All right, so now I'm going to hand it over to Matt.
Thanks, Susan. So hi, everyone. My name's Matt Stewart. I'm an engineer here at Kimley Horn. And I'll be sharing a bit of information about the speed safety program and the location selected for the city of Malibu and give you all an idea of what to expect. So to start with a little background, the speed safety program was approved for 6 cities initially by the governor through Assembly Bill 645 in 2023. And then the city of Malibu, there was a separate Senate Bill 1297 signed in 2024 that authorized the city of Malibu to implement a speed safety pilot program. And it'll be a 5-year program or until 2032. So an overview of the program. So the speed safety program is intended to reduce speeding on PCH. Um, and specifically to reduce speed-related crashes. And so the system will work with a camera that's mounted on a pole, and which takes photographs of the vehicle's license plate when it's detected to be exceeding the speed limit. Additionally, there's some more technology included. A speed feedback sign will be placed in advance of the speed camera to warn road users that there's a speed camera up ahead and remind them of the speed limit. And the goal for the project is to prioritize the safety of residents, visitors, motorists, pedestrians, and bicyclists along Pacific Coast Highway by reducing the frequency of speeding and speed-related collisions and injuries. So we wanted to share a little bit of background about how automated speed enforcement is used around the United States. And it's been in use in over 137 jurisdictions in 14 states plus the District of Columbia, according to recent data from the National Highway of Traffic Safety Administration. And in many of these cities, the programs are intended to achieve the same goals that the city of Malibu has, reducing speeding and fatalities and injuries caused by speeding. So we reviewed data for a few case study cities, including New York City and Chicago. And according to recent reports in each of those two cities, the automated speed cameras reduced speeding by 94% in New York and reduced injuries where the program was implemented by 14%. And then in Chicago, from their report from 2024, they found that severe and injury crashes decreased by 15% in areas where speed enforcement cameras were implemented. And on the next slide, we are presenting the proposed locations for the speed cameras in the city. So this is a map of the full city limits from Topanga Canyon in the east on the right side of the screen, all the way past Decker to near Mulholland Highway on the west. And there's 5 locations that were approved for use by the city by that state bill. And so the 5 locations shown on the screen were selected based on their history of fatal and severe crashes, numerous instances of excessive speeding, and geometric constraints. And so the 5 locations are at Decker Canyon, Morning View Drive, Latigo Canyon, Carbon Beach Terrace, and Tuna Canyon Road. And I think one note I'll mention is the eastbound and westbound cameras will be placed near each other in most of these cases. And in advance, there will be a radar speed feedback sign informing drivers of their speed and warning them that the automated speed camera is up ahead. And next, I'll hand it to my colleague Ramsey to discuss the use policy.
Thank you, Matt. The use policy discusses how the data for this project is collected, stored, and used. It's important to note that all data collected by the speed safety system is protected and confidential. The system collects just a single photograph of the license plate and the rear, front and rear for the speeding of the rear in the speeding vehicle. The safety system will not collect other identifying information on other drivers, vehicles, or pedestrians. And this data is stored with a 60-day retention period and will not be shared with other persons or agencies, except as required by state or federal law, court order, or subpoena. Moving on to the next slide, the use policy will also talk about fines and how revenue will be used. In terms of fines, a vehicle's first violation for traveling 11 to 15 miles per hour over the posted speed limit would be a warning notice during that 60-day period directly following program implementation. And after the first 60 days have elapsed, the fines have a sliding scale based on the vehicle speed, with a fine of $50 for driving 11 to 15 miles per hour over the speed limit, up to a maximum fine of $500 for driving 100 miles or more per hour. In terms of the revenues are first used to recover program costs, which includes the costs such as the cameras, maintenance, and speed feedback signs. And then we'll go into traffic calming measures and possibly the California Active Transportation Program to allow this speed safety camera program to potentially deliver even wider benefits beyond just speed reduction and safety. Over to you, Matt.
Thanks, Ramsey. So the use policy is one of the 2 documents required by the state bill to discuss the goals and objectives of the project. And we're working with the city now to fine tune the draft version. And it's in progress and will be finalized in the coming months. And then the second document that's required by the state bill is the impact report. And this report discusses the civil impacts of the safety system that it may have on communities and individuals. And the report ensures that the system is fair, equitable, and respectful of individual rights while achieving the intended traffic safety objectives. And then we wanted to highlight the diversion program included, which for eligible speed safety system violators who meet specified income thresholds will have the ability to do one of 2 things. One, complete community service in lieu of paying the fines and penalties. Or 2, pay the applicable penalties over a period of time with monthly installments of no more than $25 per month. So to highlight some next steps on this project, we've completed the analysis and the initial development of the 2 documents I mentioned. We're now entering the public input phase, which includes this meeting tonight, and then a second in-person public meeting next Wednesday at City Hall. And then beyond that, the use policy and impact report will be submitted for public review. And then finally, after the construction documents for the project are finalized, the system will be implemented later this year. So with that, we welcome your questions and comments. Thank you.
Not seeing questions. People can type them in the chat. Let's see.
Susan, I just saw someone typing in a question. So
Okay,
I think it's not in yet, but someone's typing it.
okay. Or maybe I can just unmute them, make it easier.
I do see a raised hand, Meryl.
Okay, Meryl, I've asked you to unmute.
Did you unmute me?
Yes.
When are the cameras expected to go up?
Okay. We have originally projected that they would be up by November. However, due to the Palisades fire, that timeline, we're not confident that it will happen by then. We're hoping. We're still going to try to stick to that timeline. But as you know, there's a lot of things going on in PCH. It could be that some of them are in place, but maybe not all of them, especially in the areas that have, where the fire recovery is occurring. But that's what I've been told at this point.
But it might be possible to get the Morning View and Latigo and Decker.
I hope so. I mean, I anticipate that, the ones that are in the burn area, there could be, some complexities there.
Yeah, but there's only two there, I think. So
Yeah.
that's not as big of a factor. And the traffic can't go that fast there anyway. So
Right,
Latigo,
but there's
Morning View, and
also,
Decker.
yeah, there's also a staff capacity issue. When I inquired our public works department about this, they were not as confident as they used to be. I mean, they're going to try. They'll probably know more in a couple months. Yeah.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
How was the fiber that was installed last year for the signal integration from Topanga to John Tyler? Was that at all affected during the fire, or is that fiber still intact so that the signals integration project is on time?
Yeah, that I can't answer that question. That would be a question for our public works director.
Yep.
Possibly I can
Yep.
contact him and maybe have a question at the in-person, have an answer at the in-person meeting to find that out.
Susan, I think part of it, as far as I'm aware, I think that equipment is still intact. There's been
Okay.
some damage, but for the most part, they since it was underground, the fiber is underground. I think most of that has been is safe and is usable. So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Well, any chance we get the other three up with signage that alerting people might, even if they're not actually operating, might help curtail speeding.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let me go. I see some questions here in the chat. Ryan says, Matt, can you clarify what determined the boundary showing Decker Canyon at west and Tuna at east? Are these boundaries etched in stone, or can public advocacy influence placement?
Yeah, I'll pull that slide back up. The boundaries, the black line is just the city limits, and the state bill does restrict the new cameras to be within the city of Malibu. So, um, Decker is pretty much the furthest west where we would recommend a camera be placed based on the data of speeding and
Yep.
crashes. So the city would appreciate input on locations where residents would recommend locations, but these locations are pretty much set in stone based on the thorough analysis of crashes and speeding.
All right, we have another question here. Are there any plans to address parking along the road and improve cyclist safety. That I think is still in development with the PCH master plan. I don't have any specific information on that. So I can't really answer that question.
Susan,
Hello.
there was an earlier
Jim.
question about the fines.
Okay. Oh, there it is. Yeah. All right. Those fines are inconceivably low, especially for how dangerous speeding is. Can I ask why they're so much lower from the camera than they would be from an officer? 100 miles per hour over the speed limit is only 500.
And to clarify this, this chart, 100 miles an hour does not mean over the speed limit. That just refers to any speed of 100 or more. And these fines are set by the state bill, and they're the same as the fines that were permitted for the 6 original cities as well. So for this pilot program through 2032, the city has no control over what these fines would be.
Right. I just want to add, I think these are a lot of that speeding may or may not be captured right now because I mean there's a lot of speeding out there on PCH. A lot of it may not be captured right now because an officer has to be out there looking at how speed they're going. But with the speed cameras, any speeding that occurs at this rate will be captured and cited. So I think there is more capture of any speeding than what we would normally see with regular enforcement. So that's the benefit of having a speed camera here than the regular enforcement.
You all right? Any more questions?
Can you still hear me?
Yes.
What about lowering it from 11 to 15 to like 6 to 15 so that we don't tell people it's fine to speed at least 10 miles an hour over the speed limit?
That's a great question. I think it's these are, I mean, the what you see on the screen, Merrill, is not something that the city has established or set. It's coming from the state law. So I think that's definitely something maybe that can be brought up. But I think as part of the system implementation, the city has to follow what's been approved. So I think that's how this was determined. But good
All right. Well,
point.
you understand my point because
Yes, good point. Yep.
if it's 50 and in 50 some places 50 is too much now. Now we're telling them it's okay to go 60 without, falling prey to this. I understand what you're saying though. Thank you.
Yep.
More questions? And I will add, just to kind of explain the process, you'll receive a citation in the mail, and that will go to the company that's managing the cameras. They review the photo to make sure that it's clear and it looks valid. And then for the second sort of review, it has to go to a city employee to review one more time to make sure it's valid and should receive a ticket. And then once the person at the city says, yes, it's a go, then the ticket is sent. And it's an administrative fine.
I couldn't see from the description. Is it going to capture the rear license plate also
Correct.
somehow?
Just the rear.
Oh, good.
I see, are aerial speed monitors a part of the plan? Not part of this plan. This is just for these fixed cameras only at this time. And you have to remember, speed cameras were not even legal in California until the first bill that was adopted a couple of years ago. And this is all still in a pilot phase, even for the first 6 cities. So, an aerial speed monitor would be, I guess, the next step up. But right now, this is what we have. More questions? And there will be opportunity to appeal anything. We will have a hearing officer dedicated for appeals if someone wants to appeal a citation they receive. Any other questions? So I'll add that, you know, we anticipate that the 30-day review period will be occurring through May. And we are scheduled to take this to the city council for adoption at second meeting in June. Once it's adopted, then we can pursue the actual purchase of equipment. The legislation specifies that our use policy and impact report must be adopted before we can purchase equipment. Give it a couple more minutes if anybody else has a question. And you know, if you don't think of a question right now, but you have a question later, you're more than welcome to send it to me directly. My email is SDUENAS, Susan Duenas at malibucity.org. And we'll have an in-person meeting next Wednesday, as Matt mentioned earlier.
Pull that back up on the screen.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I think there's a project website also here that I think this recording will be available, but in case people want to make a note of that project website.
I'll type my email in the chat in case anybody had trouble understanding for it. My email on the, and I failed to properly introduce myself in the beginning. I'm the public safety director. I oversee the city public safety department here, and we're overseeing the programmatic side of this program, while Public Works is overseeing the infrastructure side. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions. Speak now. I appreciate everybody tuning in, though, to, you know, ask your questions. It's better to ask now rather than when it's all done. So again, thank you very much for tuning in. Email me with any additional questions or attend the in-person meeting next Wednesday. And with that, thank you all very much. And I'm going to bring the meeting to a close.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.